Hey, welcome to the second day of Hat Day. This is the Year of a Million Dreams, which was in 2008, and we got these hats for free when we visited Disneyland, and I picked this hat not only because it's a little cheerful, but if you know Ms. Smith, who teaches 6th grade, whenever I say, "How you doing today, Ms. Smith?" she says, "Living the dream." And sometimes I feel like we have to choose our attitude. And you know what? We are living the dream right now, aren't we? We are healthy, we're alive, we're learning, everything is great. So we're living the dream. So today we're going to focus on commas, and I'll pull you closer to my anchor chart here so you can see what we're focused on. It looks like I'm going to have to hold this a little bit. But commas. So it says use a comma between words in a list. So this is the first lesson that we're going to do that has to do with commas. A comma sits on the line. If you make this mark and it's floating up in the air, it's an apostrophe. If you have two of them next to each other and they're floating up in the air, they're quotation marks. So when you have a single one of those that's sitting on the line, it is called a, yes, you got it, comma. And so I have a sample here for what this means when we say use a comma between words in a list. So I have a list sentence here, and I see my friends do this all the time. I like to eat apples, bananas, pears, grapes, blueberries, oranges, and watermelon. When we get a long list like that, we don't really have obvious places where we need to breathe. And so we let our readers know when a pause happens by putting a comma in. But there are rules for commas. We can't just put them any old place. And today we're working on in a list or series. So between the words that are all those nouns or that list, we're going to put a comma. So I like to eat apples, bananas, pears, grapes, blueberries, oranges, and watermelon. Whew, I can finally breathe. I like to eat apples, comma, bananas, comma, pears, comma, grapes, comma, blueberries, comma, oranges, and watermelon. When we have the and there, that takes the place of a comma. So if we could put an and in between each of those, but let me read that to you with all those ands and tell me how you feel listening to those. I like to eat apples and bananas and pears and grapes and blueberries and oranges and watermelon. That's a whole lot of and we get tired of hearing that repetition. And so the smart people who invented grammar and sentence writing decided that commas were a really smart choice for us to use. So instead of using the word and over, we put commas in between to tell that there's a little break and that there's a list happening. And you'll notice that right there, no comma, because there is the word and. We don't put a comma after that one that has the and in front of it because the and takes its place. You may have noticed that I have a whole bunch of little pink commas down here. And that's because we're going to read a book today called, oops, let me back that up just a little more. You know, my super duper professional method of teaching you guys. I'm not a professional at doing videography. I'm a professional teacher. But we're going to read the book called Bread and Jam for Frances. Frances is one of my favorite characters when I was a kid. Just loved Frances. She was sassy like me and had her own ideas about the way she wanted things done, and she didn't always follow the rules, and that was a lot like me too. And so I always loved Frances. She has the nicest parents in here, and she has a little sister named Gloria as well. But in this story, Gloria is still just a little baby. This was a favorite of my own daughter when she was the age of Frances because she also liked bread and jam, and so they used to imitate the lunches in here. I'm outside again today. I'm at my front door, and I just wanted this big wall here, so I had room to put the big chart paper up because I'm going to be taking sentences out of here. And because I'm outside, I have a little bit of a runny nose again, so I'm going to, every once in a while, you'll see me hide and wipe my nose and come back, and that's okay. All right. So, Bread and Jam for Frances by Russell Hoban, pictures by Lillian Hoban, and this one is published by Scholastic. So this book is actually from the Scholastic Book Order, which I love. I love it as much as my students. This is for Julia, who likes to practice with a string bean when she can. And that will become clear in just a moment. There's a part in the story where somebody practices eating with a string bean. When the story doesn't have pictures on one side, I like to do that so that you can look at the picture while I read. It was breakfast time. Everyone was at the table. Father was eating his egg. Mother was eating her egg. Gloria was sitting in a high chair and eating her egg too. Frances was eating bread and jam. What a lovely egg, said Father. If there is one thing I am fond of for breakfast, it is a soft-boiled egg. Yes, said Mother, spooning up egg for the baby. It is just the right thing to start off the day. Ah, said Gloria, and ate up her egg. Frances did not eat her egg. She sang a little song about it. She sang very softly. I do not like the way you slide. I do not like your soft inside. I do not like you lots of ways. And I could do for many days without eggs. What did you say, Frances? Asked Father. Nothing, said Frances, spreading jam on another slice of bread. Why do you keep eating bread and jam, asked Father, when you have a lovely soft-boiled egg? One of the reasons I like bread and jam, said Frances, is that it does not slide off your spoon in a funny way. Well, of course, said Father. Not everyone is fond of soft-boiled eggs for breakfast. But there are other kinds of eggs. There's sunny side up and sunny side down. Yes, said Frances, but sunny side up eggs lie on the plate and look at you in a funny way. And sunny side down eggs just lie on their stomachs and wait. And what about scrambled eggs, said Father. Scrambled eggs fall off the fork and roll under the table, said Frances. I think it's time for you to go to school now, said Mother. Okay, listen to this part because we're going to have a series or list and we're going to figure out where the commas go. Frances picked up her books, her lunchbox, and her skipping rope. Then she kissed Mother and Father goodbye and went to the bus stop. So Frances picked up her books, her lunchbox, and her skipping rope. So right now we're going to pause, and you can see right here that I have written the words. Frances picked up her books, her lunchbox. I'm going to try to line it up so it looks a little bit like a sentence. And her skipping rope. So it's a good thing that I have lots of sticky notes at home because I find that I'm using them a lot to do all this remote teaching. It's helpful and faster than writing it in front of you. All right. So here we have Frances picked up her books, her lunchbox, and her skipping rope. So we know that we need a comma in between the words in the series, right? So the first thing she picked up was her books. I should say were her books. So we're going to put a comma right there. Frances picked up her books, her lunchbox, and her skipping rope. Do we need any more commas there? When we look at that, Frances picked up her books, comma, her lunchbox, and we have the word and takes the place of the comma. Do you remember that? So we only need one comma in this sentence for that series. Frances picked up her books, her lunchbox, and her skipping rope. Period. And we're done. So let's go to the next page. Ooh, look at that. We've got two that we get to break apart. Put that one right there. And I'll put this one right here. So we're going to break two sentences down in just a moment. While she waited for the bus, she skipped and sang, jam on biscuits, jam on toast. Jam is the thing I like the most. Jam is sticky, jam is sweet, jam is tasty, jam's a treat. Raspberry, strawberry, gooseberry. I'm very fond of jam. So we have raspberry. Put that one up. The next one was strawberry. Oops. Thank you for your patience as we're doing this. My dog is watching me from the side yard. Raspberry, strawberry, gooseberry. I'm very fond of jam. I don't know if you noticed, but there is not an and in this sentence. So when we take our commas from my little comma pile over here, raspberry, comma, strawberry, comma, and we have a list and no and. So we're going to put a comma right there. Raspberry, strawberry, gooseberry. I'm very fond of jam. Raspberry, comma, strawberry, comma, gooseberry, comma. I'm very fond of jam. So we're separating those words in that list. That evening for supper, Mother cooked breaded veal cutlets with string beans and baked potatoes. So we have another list right there. Ah, said Father, was there a handsomer? What is there handsomer on a plate and tastier to eat than a breaded veal cutlet? I'm sure some people wouldn't agree with that, but that's okay. It is a nice dish, isn't it? Said Mother. Because we know that Frances doesn't agree with that, don't we? Eat up the string bean, Gloria. Oh, said Gloria, and ate it up. She had already eaten her dinner of strained beef and sweet potatoes, but she liked to practice with a string bean when she could. Do you remember? In the very front, it was dedicated to Julia, who likes to practice with a string bean when she can. So Gloria is practicing eating with a string bean there. All right, so that evening for dinner, Mother cooked. That evening for dinner, Mother cooked. What'd she cook? Breaded veal cutlets, string beans, and, oh, did you hear that signal word? Do we need a comma after string beans if it says and there? Baked potatoes. That evening for dinner, Mother cooked breaded veal cutlets, string beans, and baked potatoes. So we only need one comma between the breaded veal cutlets and the string beans. This page doesn't have any sentences that we need to break down. Where do breaded veal cutlets come from? Asked Frances. And why are French cut stringless beans called string beans? We can talk about that another time, said Father. Now it's time to eat our dinner. Ooh, let's do this because there's a picture on that side. Frances looked at her plate and sang, what do cutlets wear before the breaded? Flannel nightgowns, cowboy boots, furry jackets, sailor suits. Then she spread jam on a slice of bread and took a bite. She won't try anything new, said Mother to Father. She just eats bread and jam. How do you know what you'll like if you won't even try anything? Asked Father. Well, said Frances, there are many different things to eat, and they taste many different ways. But when I have bread and jam, I always know what I'm getting, and I'm always pleased. You try new things in your school lunches, said Mother. Today I gave you chicken salad sandwich. There now, said Father. Wasn't it good? Well, said Frances, I traded it to Albert. For what? Said Father. Bread and jam, said Frances. That little sneaker. She sneaked so she didn't have to try something new. The next morning at breakfast, Father sat down and said, now I call that a pretty sight. Fresh orange juice and poached eggs on toast. There's a proper breakfast for you. Thank you for saying so, said Mother. Poached eggs on toast do have a cheery look, I think. Frances began to sing a poached egg song. Poached eggs on toast, why do you shiver with such a funny little quiver? Then she looked down and saw that she did not have a poached egg. I have no poached egg, said Frances. I have nothing but orange juice. I know, said Mother. Why is that? Said Frances. Everybody else has a poached egg. Even Gloria has a poached egg, and she is nothing but a baby. "But you do not like eggs," said Mother, "and that is why I did not poach one for you. Have some bread and jam if you're hungry." So Frances ate bread and jam and went to school. When the bell rang for lunch, Frances sat down next to her friend Albert. "What do you have today?" said Frances. "I have a cream cheese, cucumber, and tomato sandwich on rye bread," said Albert, "and a pickle to go with it, and a hard-boiled egg, and a little cardboard shaker of salt to go with that, and a thermos and a bottle of milk, and a bunch of grapes and a tangerine." Do you hear all those ands? I want to put commas all over in there, but the author decided not to do that. "And a cup of custard and a spoon to eat it with." "What do you have?" Frances opened her lunch. What do you suppose she has? You're probably right with your guess. "Bread and jam," she said, "and milk." "You're lucky," said Albert. "That's just what you like. You don't have to trade now." "That's right," said Frances. "And I had bread and jam for dinner last night and for breakfast this morning." "You certainly are lucky," said Albert. "Yes," said Frances. "I'm a very lucky girl, I guess. But I'll trade you if you want to." "That's all right," said Albert. "I like cream cheese with cucumbers and tomato on rye." Albert took 2 napkins from his lunchbox. He tucked one napkin under his chin. He spread the other one on his desk like a tablecloth. He arranged his lunch neatly on the napkin. With his spoon, he cracked the shell of the hard-boiled egg. He peeled away the shell and bit off the end of the egg. He sprinkled salt on the yolk and set the egg down again. He unscrewed his thermos bottle cup and filled it with milk. Then he was ready to eat his lunch. He took a bite of sandwich, a bite of pickle, a bite of hard-boiled egg, and a drink of milk. Then he sprinkled more salt on the egg and went around again. Albert made the sandwich, the pickle, the egg, and the milk come out even. All right, I'm just going to do that last sentence. Where Albert made the sandwich, the pickle, I want it to be sticky, but not that sticky, the egg, and the milk come out even. Oop, I can put the "and" all the way over here because "and" takes the place of the comma, doesn't it? We don't need that comma there. So Albert made the sandwich, the pickle, the egg, and the milk. So I'm going to go over here and get some of my commas already. So Albert made the sandwich, comma, the pickle, comma, the egg, and the milk come out even. And so we needed 2 commas in that sentence to make it grammatically correct. My hands are so dry from washing them so much. It's hard to turn pages. He ate his bunch of grapes and his tangerine. Then he cleared away all the crumpled paper, the eggshell and the tangerine peel. He set the cup custard in the middle of the napkin on his desk. He took up his spoon and ate up all the custard. Then Albert folded up his napkins and put them away. He put away his cardboard salt shaker and his spoon. He screwed on the top of his thermos bottle. He shut his lunchbox, put it back away inside his desk and sighed. "I like to have a good lunch," said Albert. Frances ate her bread and jam and drank her milk. Then she went out to the playground and skipped rope. She did not skip as fast as she had skipped in the morning, and she sang, "Jam in the morning, jam at noon, bread and jam by the light of the moon. Jam is very nice." When Frances got home from school, Mother said, "I know you like to have a little snack when you get home from school, and I have one all ready for you." "I do like snacks," said Frances, running to the kitchen. "Here it is," said Mother, "a glass of milk and some nice bread and jam for you." "Aren't you worried that maybe I will get sick and all my teeth will fall out from eating so much bread and jam?" asked Frances. "I don't think that will happen for quite a while," said Mother, "so eat it all up and enjoy it." Frances ate up most of her bread and jam, but she did not eat all of it. After her snack, she went outside to skip rope. Frances skipped a little more slowly than she had skipped at noon, and she sang, "Jam for snacks and jam for meals. I know how a jam jar feels, full of jam. That evening for dinner, Mother cooked spaghetti and meatballs with tomato sauce. I'm glad to see there's enough for second helping, said Father, because spaghetti and meatballs is one of my favorite dishes. Spaghetti and meatball is a favorite with everybody, said Mother. Try a little spaghetti, Gloria. Gloria said, and tried the spaghetti. Frances looked down at her plate and saw that there was no spaghetti and meatballs on it. There was a slice of bread and a jar of jam. Frances began to cry. My goodness, said Mother, Frances is crying. What is the matter, said Father. Frances looked down at her plate and sang a little sad song. She sang so softly that Mother and Father could scarcely hear her. What I am is tired of jam. I want spaghetti and meatballs, said Frances. May I have some, please? I had no idea that you liked spaghetti and meatballs, said Mother. How do you know what I like if you won't even try me? Asked Frances, wiping her eyes. So Mother gave Frances spaghetti and meatballs, and she ate it all up. The next day, when the bell rang for lunch, Albert said, What do you have today? Well, said Frances, laying a paper doily on her plate, on her desk, and setting a tiny vase of violets in the middle of it. Let me see. She arranged her lunch on the doily. I have, here we go, a thermos bottle with cream of tomato soup, she said, and a lobster salad sandwich on thin slices of white bread. I have celery, carrot sticks, and black olives, and 2 little cardboard shakers of salt for the celery, and 2 plums in a tiny basket of cherries, and vanilla pudding with chocolate sprinkles and a spoon to eat it with. That's a good lunch, said Albert. I think it's nice that there are all kinds of lunches and breakfasts and dinners and snacks. I think eating is nice. So do I, said Frances. And she made the lobster salad sandwich, the celery and carrot sticks, and the olives come out even. So that is actually the end of the story. But there were 2 sentences on that page that we can break down a little bit. I'm going to lower my camera just a touch. There we go. So we have some more room to work in there. All right. I have, what does she have? I have celery. I have celery, carrot sticks, and black olives. I'm going to put that right next to each other because by now we know that the and means that we don't need to have a comma there. And a little cardboard shaker of salt for the celery. So I want you right now, before I do it, to figure out where I'm going to put this comma. Am I going to put it between have and celery, celery and carrot sticks, or carrot sticks and black olives? I think you know. We're going to put it between right there, between celery and carrot sticks. She made, this is our last sentence, she made the lobster salad sandwich